I hope GTA 6 never comes out. ... Hear me out. This is a video from IGN of all places, but it is a video from the creator that we've actually followed that does a lot of good stuff for them. It actually puts out like regularly the best content that I think IGN has made in a while. And this is a jarring title for sure, but I'll hear you out. I'll hear you out. Why should GTA 6 never come out? I didn't script that. Dude, did they private it literally the moment we were about to hit play? That's freaking hilarious. That's freaking hilarious. IGN, what are we doing? They were apparently, Rockstar sent them the letter. Did you say we should cancel the game? Did you say that? Did they re-upload it? What just happened? Okay, Eurogamer still has it up, but IGN, okay, that's freaking hilarious, dude. Okay, I don't know what's happening, man. I don't know what's happening. So there you go. Yeah, should I download it just to be safe? Do I have my downloader on this page? That's so funny, dude. What on earth? It's like, is somebody from IGN watching the stream? Is that what it is? Is that what it is? Somebody's watching and is like, quick, before he watches. Okay.
Listen, to be absolutely clear, I love Grand Theft Auto. I've been in love with it since the Blair years, and every time a new one comes along, I've been there on day one. I love its humor, I love the sense of place, I love the driving model, even the GTA 4 driving model that everyone else hated. For me, GTA represents everything that gaming is about. It's transportive, it lets you inhabit another place and live out something akin to a power fantasy, albeit one based around amassing guns and vast sums of money to the point where you can just do crime unimpeded and the consequences don't matter. It holds a stark mirror up to the real world, where that basically describes the average billionaire.
I still remember that mission. It's so good.
It's a portal to another reality that is similar to our own, but just a little more absurd, a smidge more unhinged, and that's bumhole more silly than reality should be.
Confirming your prejudices.
Of course, in the years since the last entry in the series, reality itself has become so unmoored from the expected norms that there's a real risk GTA 6 will seem frankly tame in comparison to what's actually going on in the real America right now. I mean, by the time GTA 6 actually comes out, there's a non-zero chance that the USA will have annexed Portugal and caused a worldwide shortage of canned pilchards. I don't know. And I know...
What is a canned pilchard? What is that? What is a pilch? Is that a British thing? Oh, it's a fish? It's a sardine? Okay, honest talking, chat. Did any of you guys know what a pilchard is? Is this a British thing? I don't think I've ever heard somebody refer to a sardine as a pilchard. Sorry. Yeah, it's European pilchard. It's a species of ray-finned fish in the monotypic genus Sardina. Okay, that's it. Yeah, F no. I know. Belgian. Okay, okay. No, okay. I'm glad I'm not crazy. People are like, you don't know what a pilchard is, Luke? Get outside more. Touch a fish.
This isn't a fresh observation. People have been pointing out the death of satire for years. And not just in the case of GTA. It's generally assumed that the thick of it wouldn't work nowadays because all the assumptions about the workings of government, the media and public relations that it operates on just don't hold true anymore.
It's the Shawshank Redemption, right? But with more tunneling through shit and no redemption.
The jokes in GTA 6, given the sheer length of its development cycle, might even seem quaint by the time it actually comes out. Like,
no, but you see, they have a secret weapon. Florida. People who don't know Florida don't understand. Like, yes, it seems like the world in general right now is kind of hilarious and ridiculous in so many ways, but Florida is on another level, man. Just when you think, no, the world is too unserious. Dude, Florida is another universe, okay? Like, it's just, you have a built-in endless supply of insanity. All of these little clips they're showing are from like actual viral videos coming out of Florida of like getting the alligator out of the pool, of the people twerking on top of a car. There's been people that have put like the actual real world clip versus the in-game clip together to show side by side. And bro, like this is just Florida. Okay. So it may seem ridiculous and satirical, but that's just Florida for you, okay? So you have an endless runway when it comes to Florida.
Its development cycle might even seem quaint by the time it actually comes out. Like when you watch an old TV show where, I don't know, a corrupt politician is brought down by having their improprieties exposed in the papers. The very idea of consequences like that seems laughable now. That world now seems about as distant as chariot races and loincloths. I often wonder if every GTA 6 delay actually happens so they can rewrite all the jokes that have ceased to work in the interim, like the endless Duke Nukem Forever dev cycle, but for punchlines instead of game engines. Ironically, Duke Nukem Forever had the comedy sensibilities of a working men's club in 1973. But I'm actually not talking...
I've heard people suggest that too, suggest that GTA 6's delays are in part because they're polishing, but also in part because they desire to have the jokes be timely. So they've had to delay it to rewrite portions of it. But just frankly, maybe some little things are cut and like redone, but I just don't think that's how any of this works. Like you can't just rewrite the ending of the story because of like some pivot or change. It just doesn't work that way. You know, it just doesn't work. Lots of crazy folks in Florida. Bro, you have no idea. Florida is the land of the free, home of the freer and alligators. It is really mythological in a lot of ways. We are people too, though. I mean, let's not get carried away. I mean, you're close. I love Florida. Florida's great. I love Florida. We vacation there all the time, okay? Yep. I love Florida, okay? But the jokes write themselves.
About any of that. I don't think it would be a problem for GTA 6 to be the throwback that I think parts of it are definitely going to be. If anything, I think that's what a significant swathe of the audience wants from a new GTA, to be transported back to the last time GTA was on top of the world, to be given a ticket to regress back to a younger self. That's certainly a huge part of the appeal for me as a 40-something who's been playing GTA since I was barely a teenager.
I think that though there's this desire from some that like, oh, they should make GTA, but they should still go after like political discussions and stuff. Honestly, global politics is so ridiculous at this point that I think it's beyond satire, like he's bringing up. So I think you can just focus on broader political discussions, just like GTA 5 did with like Life Invader, covering basically Facebook, you know, at the time. Or you can do other things. Like you better believe there's going to be a monstrous amount of content making fun of crypto bros and NFTs and like TikTokers, and like that's going to be all over the place. Okay. It's going to be ridiculous, and they're going to make a lot of fun of it, as they should, because it's funny. But I think they're going to do more broader, like cultural discourse and satire, as opposed to just like making fun of political candidates, you know?
What I'm dreading...
They won't make fun of AI. Oh, the head of Take-Two does not like AI stuff. Like really does not like AI stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if they also are mocking AI.
...is the discourse. What I'm specifically dreading is GTA 6 being an atom bomb dropped onto gaming culture and dominating the conversation for years to come in ways that we're yet to imagine.
Oh, it will. One of the other videos this guy did that we covered and I really liked was the discourse around like, stop comparing everything to Red Dead 2. It's just not realistic to compare what 100 people made over 4 years to what Rockstar with thousands of people and hundreds of millions of dollars did over the course of like 6 years, which I think is very fair. Even now, you see people constantly doing it, where they take a video game and they compare it to GTA or they compare it to Red Dead. They're just different things at the end of the day. Both can be good, but I think it's more I think it's more praise for Red Dead 2 that it's still groundbreaking and really cutting edge, but it doesn't mean that if a game comes out and it doesn't also have shrinking horse balls that therefore it's bad, you know? Or if the horse muscle animations aren't as good that therefore that game is entirely terrible. Like that's just not how that works. So I do think when GTA 6 comes out for the next like 2 to 3 years, every time there's any sort of video game that launches, there's going to be the comparison videos of like, this versus, you know, Witcher 4 versus Witcher 4 horse riding versus, you know, GTA 6 horse riding, if there's horse riding, you know, and they're going to do the side-by-side comparisons. That's definitely going to happen.
Red Dead Redemption 2, Rockstar's last major release, still dominates much of the online conversation. I did a video about this recently, where there's an entire cottage industry of games media specifically about comparing Red Dead 2 favorably to every new release that comes out, it seems. And it's always the same commentary. Red Dead 2 was almost a decade ago. Why has it never been surpassed?
Yeah, the one that really drove me crazy
Favorably to every new release that comes out, it seems. And it's always the same commentary. Red Dead 2 was almost a decade ago.
Yeah, the Mafia the Old Country ones, where they compared it side by side, or top to bottom, I guess. And I just don't think that they are like comparable. You know, one is a small team that was putting something together that's a very narrow scope. Like Mafia the Old Country was supposed to be a lower priced budget game, more in that like AA size and scale, and narrative focus. It's not about pure open world dynamism and stuff. Red Dead 2 is like the quintessential quadruple A game. I mean, it's just on another planet in terms of budget, scope, polishing, time, like everything. And the insinuation and the suggestion is that because the horse riding in Red Dead 2 is higher fidelity, that therefore Mafia is bad or unacceptable. People also did it with Mafia saying, oh, you can't swim. As if that's like a, well, I was going to get the game, but you can't swim. You know, when it's just kind of a stupid thing to say. You know, it's just not relevant. There are certain comparisons that I think are reasonable and healthy. I think if you're comparing like fantasy RPGs, and then you compare choice and consequence, if they're also being made by teams of similar size and scope and everything, then I think it's fair to bring those up and compare them. But, you know, the old saying is comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that that's very much true in the gaming space. Intergalactic, thank you for the 10. Still can't quite get over the tonal dissonance between these games. Between these games, the GTA 4, and then GTA 4 maybe. Poor Nico. Yeah, I mean, they decided to pivot and go with more of a parodical. Is that a term? Parodical approach, as opposed to something a little more serious, but maybe GTA 6 changes that. I'm not sure.
Why has it never been surpassed? Why does X game from this year not have all these minor details simulated like Red Dead 2 does? Why does Mafia the Old Country not have...
Yeah, the little stuff, I remember that, where they're like, see, the saddlebag moves while you're riding, but the saddlebag doesn't move in this other game. I'm like, bro, just being honest. The detail's great, but if you don't play a game because the saddlebags are stiff, I don't think there's any game you will actually enjoy. Like, you're going to rob yourself of so many great games, you know, like so many awesome games you will not get to experience because you're hyper fixated on bag sagginess. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me, and it's sad because those people are going to miss out on great games.
The same level of granular world simulation as Red Dead 2, etc., etc. Never bothering to mention that the most significant factor that puts Red Dead 2 as far ahead as it is the fact that it was one of the most expensive video games of all time and had thousands and thousands of people working on it. One of the things I tried to get across in that other video is that the rate of technological advancement isn't a constant thing that marches on forever at the same rate. In fact, we're just now coming to the end of an unprecedented explosion, which took us from Pac-Man to Arc Raiders in about the same amount of time as it takes to grow a fully formed me from a wee sperm.
I like the beard.
One lifetime to go from this to this. That's wild. That's never gonna happen again. We're gonna have the Butlerian Jihad before we ever get a technology explosion like that again. So I think the first annoying discourse is going to be about how little GTA 6 appears to have moved the medium forwards compared to its immediate predecessor, Grand Theft Horsey 2.
I like that name. That's what we should call it from now on, Grand Theft Horsey 2. I do think that there's going to be people that just have totally unrealistic expectations. Dude, I saw a thread. I want to make a video on it. Maybe we'll do a segment on it. I saw a thread that was somebody breaking down what they are expecting and what they've heard is in GTA 6. And bro, some of the nonsense is unbelievable. People being like, I heard from a guy on Reddit that the game's going to have an alimony system. So if you go and you sleep with a character in the game and you have a child, then you'll actually go to court and you have to pay alimony to the mother. No, That no, it's not in the game. What? Like, what are we doing? Like, it's outrageous. No. Or other people being like, yeah, there's actually an entire system of court proceedings. So when you commit a crime and you're arrested by the police, you'll actually be let out, you'll reload, but outside of a court. Then you'll have court appearances where you have to actually go to court and stand in court. And then you have to spend in-game money to hire out an attorney to represent you in court. And then you have to do a mini game to actually testify on the stand. And I was like, no. It's not, no, that's not there. You know, it's just absolutely crazy, nonsensical, made up stuff. But there's so many people spewing so much garbage and so little of it is ever contradicted that I think there's going to be people inevitably that have, you know, false expectations or unrealistic expectations and end up being disappointed. I think part of it is that there is a subculture in gaming that is focused on GTA. It's kind of weird for us because we cover the broader industry and we talk about the broader industry a lot, but the GTA 6 community specifically, it's a whole other subculture within gaming discourse where it's a lot of made up nonsense. It's a lot of pure speculation. It's a lot of AI generated garbage because like a lot of people following it and watching it are like straight up 8 years old. They just are, you know, and those people, you know, maybe if they're 8 years old, they're not going to move the needle much when it comes to public discourse if it's disappointing or something. But I think that there's inevitably going to be some difficulty living up to expectations. Rockstar is very good at living up to expectations, but even in the wake of Red Dead 2, you remember there was still disappointment with how little variety there was in like questing options. Like most missions played out exactly the same for every player. There was a lot of hand holding. You had to do the mission exactly the way they expected it you to. If you tried to walk around the building instead of just running straight in, it would be a mission failed and you reload. There were things like that that frustrated players. And I'm sure there's going to be things like that in GTA 6 that still frustrate players when people are like, oh, this still feels the same as that old game. You know, it's still great, but it's just not that innovative or inventive. It's very similar to that old thing. That's no doubt going to happen. The game will still be fantastic, I'm sure, but certainly it's going to happen.
And let's be honest, there aren't many ways in which Rockstar games actually have moved the medium forward. Now, don't get me wrong, they're brilliant at building vast, immersive, consistent game worlds that feel almost tangibly real, and filling them with huge amounts of micro and macro detail, and populating them with memorable characters and character. And GTA 6 will do more of that, but because we've essentially hit a plateau now where big budget games are about as realistic looking as you're going to get, there's no room for innovation or raising the bar outside of gameplay mechanics, outside of compelling systems that interact in meaningful ways. And in that category, Rockstar games have always fallen short compared to the likes of, I don't know, Metal Gear Solid 5, Tears of the Kingdom, even the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion from 9,000 years ago. In fact, you can look at all the incredible stuff that GTA 4 was doing with Euphoria physics back in 2008 and reasonably conclude that, if anything, Red Dead 2 is a regression from the last time they meaningfully innovated. Despite...
Yeah, I think it's certainly going to be a game about scale and scope as opposed to just about individual, like, groundbreaking innovations, you know?
4510 West Vine Street, Kissimmee, Florida. 3474.
Oh, the Medieval Times. It says Andrew Malcolm with the 10. There's a Medieval Times theme park in Florida, 4510 Vine Street. Well, and that's one thing people were suggesting maybe the medieval guy or the guy working on medieval architecture was working on, was that he was working on like a Medieval Times or a Renaissance fair or something for a mission in GTA 6. Maybe that does end up being there, because if they did hire this guy when they were working and experimenting with the idea of a medieval game, he worked on stuff. So maybe they found a way to reuse some of the stuff he worked on and, you know, put it into the game with like a Medieval Times or something. That could be cool. Renaissance fair, that could be cool. Very, very different, but you just never know. You never know.
This Red Dead 2 has garnered a reputation for being the last good video game ever made in some circles, which means GTA 6 is going to be compared to it relentlessly and found wanting by the most annoying people on Earth. And it'll dominate the discussion in other ways.
$800 million, that's how much the video game Grand Theft Auto brought in after its first day on sale.
Millions of kids are learning to slaughter bystanders.
Sorry. Millions of kids learning to slaughter bystanders. Dude, I'm kind of hopeful we get some major crash outs when GTA 6 launches. I kind of miss them. we used to like every time there was a big AAA game release, it was like, okay, this is the game that's going to tear down society. You know, it's not the actions of boomers going on pointless wars and stuff. No, it's the video games for the children. Yeah, I'm hoping we get some funny crash outs. Fingers crossed.
But critics condemn the scenes with graphic violence, including torture and cruelty to women.
Is that what people really want? What, violence?
I find that some people like that sort of game.
Grand Theft Auto is one of a handful of gaming brands with as much cultural clout as a big film or television franchise. All of your mums have
Probably
heard
more.
of Grand Theft Auto, right? Very few of them have heard of Claire Obscura Expedition 33 or whatever piss you're into at the moment. That's just facts. Traditionally, Grand Theft Auto gets picked up by the mainstream media for two reasons. How much money it makes, because as an artistic medium, the only societal worth it's ever deemed to have is based on how much money it makes. And secondly, for having controversial content.
You, the player, are a street thug trying to take over the city.
It used to be that the
Can you
conservative right would regard it with disdain for being distasteful, for featuring simulated blowjobs, for the murder, for its glorification of criminality, the sorts of things that the conservative right used to get upset about. Nowadays, that's all been turned on its head. It's now far more likely to come under fire for its perceived wokeness. There's a female protagonist, for example, and it takes the out of Floridians. So there's going to be an inevitable tsunami of raw sewage across social media featuring Lucia's monstrously female face going on about how left-wing activists with pink hair have ruined a cultural institution. And you know,
I will say the stupidest thing I've ever seen is people sharing photos from like Women's Day at a studio where they literally pull all of the women out of the studio to take a picture in front of the building. And they're like, see, these are the developers. And it's like, oh my God. It's just like, you want to be upset. Okay. Just be real. You want to be upset. Okay. Like these are the same people that made this. It's the same thing. The most revealing one was with the Oblivion remaster remake thing where they brought in some of the OG designers from Oblivion back in 2005, 2006. And they're like, oh, they brought in all these women to work on these games. And like, we pulled up the documentary Making of Oblivion and it's the same women from 2005. And it's like, no, they're OGs, dude. Like these are the women that have been making these games, you know, shocker, they're in the industry. But no, I do think that there's going to be a puritanical panic regardless with the game. I think it'll come from both sides of the political spectrum as it usually does. Instead of it being like satanic panic over like they're promoting crime, I think you'll see more discussions of like, you know, diversity and stuff like that we've seen in the last like 2 years really prevalently. And then on the other side of the political extreme, it's going to be like complaints over it not being like diverse enough, or that it promotes like testosterone fueled mania too much or stuff like that. Like no matter what, there's going to be people raging and freaking out about it because that gets clicks and drives engagement. It's going to happen regardless. I think most players are just going to play it and have fun though.
what's going to happen? They do it about absolutely everything.
And at least we're not wearing clown outfits. There's a plus.
Meanwhile, the actual woke people will be laying into it for continuing to be the crass, vulgar, misogynistic.
I'm sorry. Did you see that?
Everything.
And at least we're not wearing clown outfits. There's a plus.
I forgot about
Meanwhile,
that.
the actual woke people will be laying into it for continuing to be the crass.
Jim's ring. Dude, there's so many little things like that are just so good. They're just so good, man. It's so good. Oh, like you drive by it 1,000 times and you'll never notice it. But the one time you do look, you're like, is that a butthole joke? You know, I love it, dude.
Vulgar, misogynistic teenage snot playground with questionable politics that it always was, because let's face it, it's still going to be a GTA
Rimmers.
game, and it's still going to have a stock ticker called Bossack and a jet ski brand called Speedophile. And it's still going to feature over-the-top racial and cultural caricatures, and it's still going to be hilariously sociopathic. And I'm sorry to literally both sides this, but there are going to be people on both sides of these idiotic culture wars that poison everything screaming at each other about this game for months.
Yeah, I fully expected I think that's true. I think you're going to see people from like the religious puritanical approach. They're going to be pissed The people on the other side that are screaming that there's like too many white people in it are going to be pissed. Like you're going to have both extremes pissed off, which probably means that you did something right. You know, like if it's meant to be satirical and make fun of culture, if everybody on the extremes is upset, then it probably means you're balanced in the middle.
And it's going to saturate all the bandwidth we have as a culture for talking about other games that have nothing to do with GTA, partly because every other publisher is rightly scared of releasing anything in its orbit. It will very likely create a cultural void to be filled with shit. And as much as I love it, gaming is so much more than GTA. And frankly, I'm enjoying this unexpected reprieve we have from having to talk about it, even though I'm choosing to fill that time by talking about it, because it means that other releases are getting a look in. The last thing...
I do think it's going to be all anybody talks about for a solid like month and a half. And after that kind of culture bomb goes off, I think a lot of the discourse is going to be around like, did it live up to the hype? Look at these fun details buried within it and stuff like that. But after that, after about a month, it's going to start to settle down. I think soon after they're going to launch the online mode where a lot of the attention is going to then pivot and go into, especially because it sounds like they have hired or bought out multiple modding teams that were working on RP stuff. So my guess is there's going to be a lot of day one support for roleplay servers, and like every streamer on the planet is going to be doing that. If I were a studio making a live service game that launches in 2026 or God forbid 2027, I would be seriously nervous because I think it's going to be just like total insanity. You know, it's going to be crazy. But maybe I'm overly optimistic. I don't think that it's going to be like 6 months of nothing but GTA 6. I think just like with Red Dead 2, it'll come out. Everybody's going to be like, wow, this is awesome. And then like things will level out pretty quickly. I mean, again, Red Dead 2 still, you know, absolute masterclass masterpiece. But you got to remember that even though like GTA or Red Dead 2 launched in October, I believe, October 26th, I think, of 2018, within like a month and a half, the Game Awards happened and God of War 2018 won over Red Dead 2. Not because Red Dead 2 is bad, but just because people were like, yeah, we played it, we appreciate it, we played this, we appreciate it. And then they voted based on that. Like, I think gamers generally have a much more level head. They don't, like, they're not so monochromatic, you know. I think people will be able to level up fairly quickly. GTA 6 is so much bigger than Red Dead 2. I do think it is massive. Without a doubt, it's going to be the biggest thing in gaming history. But I think with a very bright burn comes a quick burnout. And by quick, I mean a month. But I think after a month, people will be like, okay, I'm ready to try something different and figure it out. Like, I think it's going to burn very, very brightly. But after a month of nonstop discourse, I think people, no matter how big the game is, I think people will still be like, yeah, okay, I'll go try that other game. You know, I'll give that a shot. So we'll see. Thank you, Xander.
At Xander Salos donated $9.99 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
It's gonna be wild when Crimson Desert follows through on its promises and beats GTA 6 for GOTY. I think Crimson Desert could be a game changer and big studios will start to prioritize
fun ideas again. Thank you for the 10. And I do think if Crimson Desert can pull off everything they're doing, it could easily be one of those Game of the Year contenders. I think pretty comfortably. And it will benefit from the fact that it's very, very different from GTA 6, you know, like that it's kind of the polar opposite, you know, but you know, well, time will tell. Anybody who's just assuming GTA 6 wins Game of the Year, again, I just point back to Red Dead 2, because a lot of the time for Game of the Year, it's not just about what's the biggest game or best-selling game or most hyped game. A lot of the time, the discourse comes down to what game like deserves an award the most. Like, everybody expects GTA to be the biggest game ever, but what game could come out and just totally surprise people, you know? Like, I think even if like GTA 6 launches and is like a 95 on Metacritic and it's just a fantastic, you know, breathtaking masterpiece, I still think if that like Expedition 33 launched this year, I think it would still probably win over it. Because a lot of the games media that's voting on Game of the Year and that chooses what wins it at the Game Awards, they have sort of an anti-AAA preference, or quadruple A maybe. They like to be more original, you know? Yeah, High Guard, you never know.
That makes me dread its release is not about the content of the game or where it's positioned in the landscape, but about the people who have poured their blood, sweat and tears into it. GTA 6 is being made by a vast development team, no doubt diverse in all aspects of their identities, their cultural backgrounds, their politics, who don't deserve to be put in the stocks over an entertainment product they've made. Let's be honest, GTA might be a work of satire in a lot of ways, you can legitimately call it that, but it is a work of fiction. It's a work of escapism. It's a daft, vulgar, shooting, driving playground. We're not supposed to take it that seriously, but it is unfortunately being made by a studio that is accused of union busting, that has a well-documented history of crunch culture, and whose attitude toward its own workforce casts a rotten cloud over its huge achievements. Make no mistake, I'm gonna play and enjoy GTA 6. We are gonna cover it as an organization. It's the biggest release on the horizon by an insane margin. I just wish for once I could enjoy a new video game without having to constantly think about the possibility that at some point along the chain, every sale of it is propping up a cabal of arseholes.
I asked for a fair day's pay after a fair day's work.
If you're interested in...
Yeah, I hear that. I think that's been true ad infinitum. I think no matter what product you're looking at or a game you're looking at, if it's a big AAA game made by hundreds of people as part of a big corporation, at some point your money is going to help people that you probably find detestable or bad. I think that that's true. What's the old saying? I think it's a Marxist saying or quote. It's like, you know, in capitalism, there's no such thing as ethical consumption, I think, to use a term that some of these people might like. But I think it just comes down to, like, if you want to play a game and you think it looks fun and you want to buy it and play it, cool. I think at some point I understand somebody's desire to not participate in something if they don't like it, but I think it's also really freaking cringe to then try to accuse players for being like unethical or evil if they happen to buy it, you know? And we've seen that happen before where it's like, did you know one of the owners of this? Like this happened when the ZeniMax deal went through. Do you know who was on the board of directors for ZeniMax Online Entertainment that you may not know of? Do you know who was on there? When they were bought out by Microsoft, there were calls for boycotting Game Pass and boycotting Bethesda Game Studios games because this person was on the board. Todd Howard? No. It might have been Robert. I don't recall. It's one of, it's the brother of Trump's brother. I think it was John or Robert. One of them. He died. He's dead, but he was on the board, the ZeniMax board, for years and years and years. And people were saying, oh, because of that, he should be, you should boycott the company. And it was like, he has a brother. Yeah, I think he has two. I think one of his brothers died of like alcohol poisoning or a drug overdose or something. I don't remember. But people were calling for that. And I'm like, no, I think if you play Fallout 4, that doesn't mean that you support like the people that are connected to this or that. Like, I think that starts to get unreasonable. That sort of McCarthyite, puritanical test of making sure everybody's following exactly what you dictate. If you want to boycott something because you're ethically opposed to it, props to you. I actually respect that a ton. That is your right to boycott it. What I find cringy is when people start to then try to claim other people are bad because they didn't choose to boycott it for the same reasons you chose to, you know? But with GTA 6, I do think there's going to be a lot of discourse around it, a lot of discussion. People are going to play it, and there's going to be, you know, concerns. Am I contributing to a union busting company? Kinda, yeah. But you're also paying the salaries of the people that are there and that are working there. Like, just because you bought the game doesn't mean you're a bad person, okay? Because somebody on Twitter raged about it. It's okay. It's okay. You know, he died back in 2020. I think that sounds right. And then I think it went to his estate, his ownership stake. So when they sold to Microsoft like a year later or whatever it was, the claim was like, you're contributing to the family if you continue to play it was like a whole thing, but everybody forgot about it because it was kind of stupid, you know? Anyway, a lot of contrarians too. Oh yeah, inevitably. And it's just, the thing with a lot of social media is that it equalizes voices, which is great because it means that somebody in the middle of nowhere can talk directly to like the president through Twitter, right? At least in principle. But it also means that people can just make up and rage bait absolute nonsense, and it's elevated to the max, especially because these algorithms tend to promote rage bait. So there's that.